now start. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. In Germany, say Guten Morgen, Guten Tag, and Guten Abend. I'm learning the language. Welcome to the TAFISA Mission 2030 workshop. Today we are now dealing with one of the themes under the Mission 2030 theme, cultural heritage and diversity. And today's topic is integrating cultural heritage, sport, and physical activity. Welcome for joining us. Stay with us. We hope to interact with you for knowledge and experience sharing, to get your ideas and to learn how to integrate sports, physical activity, and cultural heritage. To kickstart our workshop today, may I welcome our TAFISA Secretary General, Jean-François, to give us a word of welcome.
Thank you very much, Jaime. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. And I would like to pass to you the greetings of the TAFISA Board of Directors, which welcomes you to this event today. I would like to thank all of you as participants in the workshop for taking the time and showing interest in this topic, which is one of significance across the globe at the moment, especially considering the impact of globalization and how we can safeguard cultural heritage while at the same time promote participation in sport for all and physical activity. We have gathered today lots of exciting speakers coming from Canada, China, Indonesia, Botswana, but also Portugal and Germany, who will highlight the different facets and the link between sport, physical activity, and cultural heritage. This workshop is hosted in cooperation with the SPASH project, which stands for Sport and Physical Activity in Cultural Heritage Environments. It is co-funded by the Erasmus Plus of the European Program of the European Union, and it is also hosted in partnership with the organizing committee of the 28th TAFISA World Congress Organizing Committee. It is the very first time that we are partnering with the organizing committee of one of our congresses, and it comes very much from a positive development that we have agreed with them to bring the learnings of this workshop and of the future Mission 2030 workshops in the coming months to Düsseldorf, which will be the venue of our next Congress in November, and to further discuss those issues during the various Congress sessions. The topics of cultural heritage, diversity, and sports are too often handled and tackled separately. And this is something that is shown very often in public policies, but also in strategies of many organizations. However, the touching points between those various environments are numerous. Only to take a few examples, I would like to give the case of traditional sports and games. Traditional sports and games which are the border between sports and culture. They are considered and recognized by UNESCO as World Intangible Heritage. I would also like to mention, for example, tourism. How can we link, for example, cultural landmarks and heritage within our cities and our countries with physical activity? And I would say that even now with the development of sustainable tourism, the links are even more obvious. I would like also to mention sport as a marker of identity for many countries, for many nations, and notably also for indigenous communities. And as a last example, I would like also to highlight that even in major sports events, very often cultural heritage is used and showcased as part of the opening ceremonies of world championships or even the Olympic Games. So the links are there. How can we integrate sport, cultural heritage, and diversity from a sustainable point of view? This is what we will try to discuss today, and we will listen to various examples and case studies from around the world. I very much look forward to listening to what the speakers have to bring. I also look forward to listening to your contributions, and I hope that we will all together have a great 2 hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jean-François. We appreciate. Now we will go into the impulse of the workshop, and we would like to invite Sensei Tian from the University of Tsukuba, who is going to give us a presentation on cultural heritage and diversity. Over to you, Tian Sensei. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. My name is Tian Xiaojie. I'm currently a postdoc fellow in JSPS, affiliate to University of Tsukuba in Japan. And I'm very glad to have this opportunity to join this very important workshop. So my presentation title is Cultural Heritage and Diversity. So my talk has three parts. First is about the concept change of cultural heritage, and also about cultural heritage management, as well as my personal or concerns and some opportunities I observed towards the integration of sports for all and cultural heritage, which based on my research experience with indigenous people Maasai in Kenya. So we start from the concept change. In terms of concept, the heritage itself has a long history, and before the 20th century, it was linked with the perceptions towards landscape and artifacts with universal values. And from the mid-20th century, UNESCO launched its World Heritage initiatives for nominating the place that are with universal values to humanity and started the preservation towards these universal values. And actually the word culture was added to this heritage concept later from the 1970s with the purpose of protecting historical cultural sites and the cultural practices with both material and spiritual values. So the rise of attentions towards culture in heritage was also influenced by the gradually changed attitudes towards cultural diversity in non-industrialized world. But it was studied initially from the tangible things, objective preservation. So the attention was given to the immaterial or let's say intangible cultural practices was from the 1990s, starting with the full recognition of the venues of traditional music, dance, traditional sports, games, etc. And these are started to formally recognized in the heritage list. These traditional, intangible traditional cultural practices actually are also under threatened because of the modernization and globalization. So actually this change is with more emphasis to its venues, cultural venues, is also related to the more comprehensive understandings towards the diverse forms of body culture and of diverse types of knowledge transmissions, not only from material, but from how we do the human behaviors across generations. So along this concept change, the heritage management also gradually changed from purely preserving the nature sites, moving to currently like involving more of local communities by applying the local knowledge into the conservation programs. With my experience in Asia and Africa, this local knowledge has been really appreciated in this in recent conservation project. And meanwhile, actually, as we know, the tourism industry has been developed along with the preservation of heritage sites, which was ideally considered as a win-win strategy for both development and conservation. But actually, in realities, a lot of problems still exist. So to briefly address some of these main challenges, I think Hilary and Bob mentioned very well. Cultural tourism and cultural heritage management operates as parallel activities in most places with remarkably little dialogue between the two. So the result is many lost opportunities to provide quality visitor experiences while managing real and fragile resources in a socially, environmentally, and ethically responsible and sustainable manner. I think they really address the core challenges now we are facing when we link the tourism, cultural tourism, with cultural heritage management, and which we may face when we take sports for all integrate into cultural heritage. And from my own research experience with Maasai people, I also want to add one point is the marginalized local voices in different levels of decision makings in terms of how to manage cultural heritage and how to develop tourism for the sustainable development of local community. Actually, moving to my, just briefly introduce the Maasai people. They live across the boundary of Kenya and Tanzania, and this area is well known for its rich landscape, especially the wild animals. So till now, it consists of two big World Heritage sites. One, the Serengeti National Park, which is meaning for the nature conservation, and also Ngorongoro Conservation Area, which is for both nature and cultural heritage significance. And recently, the 3-mile rites of passage of the Maasai was recognized as registered intangible cultural heritage. This is quite recently happened. But actually, the conservation activities in this land has a very long history, even before the colonial age. So initial attention given to the conservation was to the nature area, was to the nature, especially to the wild animals. So it has been a very long time, the public, even the international attention was given to the wild animals conservation, which leaving little consideration of the people, the culture, the body language, the body culture living there. So even in nowadays, the local Maasai are facing the risk of losing their land for subsistence. So I think actually similar to the situation of Maasai, in many cultural heritage sites in non-Western countries where the legal procedures are not so completely made, are not so comprehensive, unsolved conflicts among different stakeholders actually continue to exist and with a long historical backgrounds. I think it is worth to consider how to make the needs of different stakeholders being recognized inside new programs if we see the potential opportunities of this linkage of sports for all and cultural heritage. And I also believe actually this challenge can be also bring lots of opportunities for making positive changes because it's a new thing. So with my experience of how the body culture of Maasai youth has been applied in different conservation programs, like the Maasai Olympic for the conservation of wild animals, they are very positive to showcase their body performance and to explain actually the jump for utility, not for the height, not for competition. So I believe the integration of sports for all and cultural heritage could bring different communication opportunities, new communication opportunities among different stakeholders. And I do think conversation makes changes. In terms of sport and physical activity, these two concepts should be also considered for its diverse means. The integration of sports for all and cultural heritage indeed could promote body techniques traditional body performance, and also health-related, we call it ethno-knowledge across the globe. And for local communities, I believe if good communication could be made, and they also gain chance to assess new sports programs and gain the chance to explore their own well-being with new experience in this globalization era. So I think that's all from my side. And finally, I would like to thank Hame and Dennis and also TAFISA staff members for your all very warm invitation. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sensei. We appreciate you sharing the background and your experience with the Maasai culture. There's a question for you before we go into the round table. The question is, according to you, what do you think should be done to integrate sports? I'm trying to understand it, to integrate sport in cultural heritage of poor and low social economic groups of population.
I think with my experience, actually, nowadays when we produce any programs for game popularities, first of all, we pay attention to pay more attention to our tourist guests, so who bring economic benefits. But sometimes we overlook the local voices. For example, when organize Maasai Olympic, to attract attention from outsiders, sometimes the over showing of the competition aspects sometimes make how the Maasai make utility being quite overlooked. So these kind of how can I say, for the business win-win business aspect may bring some how can I say, negative impact to these programs. I mean, a good communication. And for me, I think all the goodness of the program to make a good program, a real good program, really requires like more attention is given to local people's voice, how they consider the body culture should be expanded in these programs. So involving local voice is very important.
Thank you so much, Sensei. And the question from Shmuel Yerushalmi, thank you so much for the question. Now we move forward and we'll keep on sharing the question with you, Sensei, when they come on. To the round table now, we have a few presentations from different speakers. Would like now to start with Mataya Jim from Sport for Life Canada, who is going to be sharing Indigenous Communities Active for Life presentation. Over to you, Mataya.
Thank you so much, and I'm so glad to be here today. Like was introduced, my name is Mataya, or in my language,
Go ahead, sorry.
Okay. Kwestania tanisne, tana Josénich, tan chesa ala Joséikam, chesa ala Penelchit, chesa ala Ditidat. And generally, when I'm presenting I like to introduce myself in my language and to kind of bring that part of my heritage and my culture into this space, which I think is very relevant for today. So I'm going to be talking about Indigenous Communities Active for Life, which is a resource and a workshop that was developed to support Indigenous community leaders in Canada. I'm sure we could probably adapt it to elsewhere as well. So what it does is supports these individual champions as they embark on a journey to develop sustainable quality sport and physical activity programs. We look to build collaborative relationships, and hopefully then our community champions will re-engage their community members into active and healthy lifestyles. Just to give a little bit of a context of the Canadian context, here is a map of Canada. You'll see that the little green dots, those are actually different on-reserve First Nations communities. So this map doesn't even include Métis communities or Inuit communities. So as you can see, it's quite diverse, and there's quite a few communities across Canada. Canada has the largest landmass, or the second largest country landmass in the world, and a lot of diverse First Peoples across Canada. So before I get into the story time, one note I want to say also is that there is a difference between integrating culture into sport and integrating people or Indigenous peoples into sport. And I'm going to focus on integrating culture in sport, just because it gets a little bit tricky when we start trying to integrate specific peoples into sport. Here in Canada, we have a long history of that where it didn't go quite so well. So I'm going to focus on integrating culture into sport. And before I get into a few stories, I did want to highlight a few key pieces of the Indigenous Communities Active for Life resource and workshop. So how do we have relevant, empowering content with such diverse Indigenous populations across Canada? To address this, we kind of look at two things within the Indigenous Communities Active for Life workshop and resources. What we're looking at are those key pieces of quality sport that are sort of relevant to this, and that's we're trying to make participant-centered programs, programs that are inclusive and welcoming, that are fun and fair, and that are safe. Generally, we try and do this with all sport, but how this becomes relevant in Indigenous sport is kind of in that participant-centered piece. For Indigenous participants, bringing culture in is kind of what makes it inclusive and welcoming, fun and fair and safe. So when we look at that, one of the things that we're looking at, because we have such diverse populations across the country, is we've brought into play sort of a holistic model. And you may have heard or seen something similar before, where you may see like a medicine wheel with maybe 4 quadrants, where you have where you kind of go beyond the physical in sport and start looking at the cultural, the mental, and the spiritual aspects of the participants. And this is a key piece when we're looking at diverse populations across Canada, because everybody kind of has those needs, and we can meet those needs when we start looking at them based on each participant. So those are kind of the key pieces that we try and get across in the Indigenous Communities Active for Life. And I kind of want to share some stories about like what that could potentially look like in practice. So one of the stories I want to share, and I always love to share this story, is my daughter. She plays soccer. She has for quite a long time. That's her sport. Although she's recently started lacrosse as well. She's started in a league team, like just a community club team. And maybe in her second year, the club partnered with our local Indigenous community here, which is José, and we put forward multiple all Indigenous or all First Nations teams from the local community. And kind of had them join the league. And it made such a difference. The participation for Indigenous participants within the league increased. It was a really beautiful time. And I just remember my daughter kind of going out on the field, and she was kind of lucky enough that a lot of the girls on her team, they were in a local language immersion program, which was awesome. So they would speak the local Indigenous language, which is Mchothan. And so the coach was also one of the teachers for that program. So it was a really great way to kind of bring language out of the communities, out of the on-reserve communities and into the public community, and kind of integrate it and share it with sport. You know, it created that sort of safe environment, and it became inclusive and welcoming. And it was just amazing because throughout my life, I had not really seen Indigenous languages kind of be just there in the public. And it was really interesting to kind of see the reactions from sort of the other league teams and parents, because at first, you know, they were a little bit maybe hesitant or wary. You could kind of see a little bit of standoffish, just as we were kind of bringing this language that had never been heard before onto the pitch. And but you could see as the season kind of went on and we went through, you could kind of see the kind of relax and calm that kind of came over the community. And I think it was a great sort of exchange and share and representation of just that mixture of sport and culture. I'm just sorry, I lost my timer here. How am I doing on time?
I think you should be now getting to wrap up.
Okay. So I think that's one of the great ways that we can bring, at a community level, bring Indigenous language into sport and culture and those different pieces into sport. If you're interested, you can also have a look at, on a larger level, when an example of language brought into sport would be, they have a large hockey broadcast here in Canada. It's called Hockey Night in Canada. And more recently, they've started to kind of do a Hockey Night in Canada in Cree, which I think is amazing. It's one of the languages here. And so that people can watch sort of that broadcast and enjoy sport, but in their own traditional language, and really focus on that revitalization. But I will pause here and ask for any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. For the roundtable, we'll take the questions at the end of the roundtable. And
perfect.
thank you. And kindly share the website and the emails on the chat for people to get them from there. Thank you so much. We'll now go to the next speaker from the roundtable, Diar Nurbintoro from Indonesia Sports for All Committee, Indonesia, who's going to be presenting on preserving cultural heritage and health through pancake silat. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gama. I'm starting to share my screen. Is it all right? You see?
Yes, we can see. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all participants and speakers of today's workshop on integrating culture, heritage, sport, and physical activity. It is an honor for me to present the Indonesian Sport of All Committee to provide a presentation on preserving cultural heritage and health through Pencaksilat. I'm now head of international relations on Indonesian Sport for All Committee. Pencaksilat is a traditional martial arts that grew and developed in Indonesia since the 7th century. Pencaksilat as Indonesian cultural heritage has been declared by UNESCO as World Intangible Cultural Heritage. As mentioned earlier, Pencaksilat has evolved since the 7th century. It mainly grew in Sumatra and Java Islands. Since then, Pencaksilat continues to evolve and grow into numerous branches or genres. Several aspects of Pencaksilat that I can mention among others are mental spiritual, art and culture, sport, self-defense, and beauty or aesthetic. If you learn about Pencaksilat, you will most likely learn of its special move such as starting position, approaching and move, steps, anticipating enemy move, defense, attack move, multiple move combined, sweeping, and final position. Pencaksilat as a cultural heritage is a traditional and attraction on Minangkabau and Melayu wedding ceremonies. Aside from the move, Pencaksilat is known as cultural heritage. In this regard, Pencaksilat often is displayed during wedding ceremonies in West Sumatra, Melayu, and also in Jakarta, Betawi. Pencaksilat also, here for example, of Pencaksilat being displayed on a Betawi wedding ceremony. It's in Jakarta, known as Padang Pintu. On this occasion, the groom will bring his Pencaksilat warrior to meet face-to-face with the bride's Pencaksilat warrior. The bride's Pencaksilat warrior acts as gatekeeper, palang pintu, and will only allow the groom to enter if they can be defeated by the groom's Pencaksilat warrior. Of course, the groom warrior will, at the end of the day, win against the bride's warrior. Otherwise, no wedding will take place. Ladies and gentlemen, we often see Pencaksilat being exercised by anyone, anywhere, and anytime. The physical activities may involve games, recreational activities, and spark up a local culture in various community hubs in villages or cities. In a formal setting, Pencaksilat has been included as one of the sport activities in school curriculum. This is a sub of Pencaksilat activities in various communities and villages. Also at school, Islamic boarding school. There are also Pencaksilat as a self-defense art or sport, which practice it at school or a training camp. Pencaksilat then further known as a self-defense art or sport is being taught in various training camps across Indonesia. Pencaksilat is also a competitive sport. Pencaksilat is also leads in various multi-event sport competition. Aside from that, certainly there are many Pencaksilat competition. This is one of the festival, for example. As Pencaksilat is also known for its cultural heritage, it's come to know one surprise. I believe that Pencaksilat is being performed in various cultural festival. Pencaksilat is today also known as a community sport. This is for example, in one community in Indonesia, they're practicing Pencaksilat as a sport. Then, ladies and gentlemen, Pencaksilat is also considered as a medium to cure and heal sickness. But don't ask me how the method works, as I have never tried our myself, because I never been trying that. So this is the Pancasila that I want to show you, that this martial art, which already been as a traditional art, also as a sport which popular in the region. Besides that, I also want to inform to you that next July, I wish to inform that the Indonesian Sport for All Committee will organize the National Sport for All on 1st to 7th July 2023 in Bandung, West Java. This event will showcase various Indonesian traditional and contemporary sports. So if you be planning to visit Indonesia next summer, I would like to invite you to Bandung to attend and to participate in this festival. It's a nice and attractive occasion next June. I thank you, Game, for participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing the interesting part of the wedding ceremony in Indonesia. That is quite exciting. And we'll get back to you.
Welcome.
Yes, we'll get back to you with the questions. And now we can go to Vitor Marques from Município of Guimaraes, Portugal, who's going to be presenting on preserving customs, knowledge, and tradition through cultural heritage and sport. Over to you, Vitor.
Hola, hello, good morning or good afternoon here now. Thanks, first of all, thank you, TAFISA, for the invitation. What I'm going to present is just a part of the SPAC program, which I think José will be speaking about in more detail afterwards. But we've really focused on using sports and physical activity as a way of promoting cultural heritage and both ways around. Generally, when you're speaking about these, is my presentation changing? Yeah, I just changed the slide. Did you see that? Yes or no? Yeah?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I was just not sure.
Thank you.
The pilot program, what we did was we've been working on cultural heritage and sports, and we thought, as mentioned here before, that one dimension that wasn't that was a bit overlooked was the material cultural heritage. So we focused on we were thinking about some cultural activities, and we focused on linen. Linen was a big agricultural occupation that is, unfortunately now we don't have it as much. Linen is not work, but it was very traditional. People knew how to work linen, and linen, the working has many stages, and it was a big cultural manifestation of the local community, because it had to do with harvesting, with the agricultural traditions. So we focused on the production of linen and the whole of the tasks that are involved in producing linen. You have all kinds of different tasks, from, you know, small hands working to everybody participated in the making of linen, from children to physically active people, older people. So we decided to focus on the linen, the tasks of the producing of linen, and making routines, physical routines that would be inspired and that could replicate this knowledge of the linen tradition. So we called it alinho, which is linho is linen in Portuguese. In English, we call I am linen. So in English, sorry, we call it I am linen. So it's part of integrating and getting people together and using immaterial heritage to focus on development of physical activity. Throughout the process, we also found that the intergenerational exchanges between the people, because we focused on three different publics, children, people in physically active age, and people over 45. So this got the whole range of the population. And we thought, and we saw that because some of the older people still remembered and still have more stronger reminiscence of the working of the linen, how it was done. And this ended up being it's sort of an intercultural, generational thing, but where the older people were explaining to the kids how it used to work and how harder these real tasks were than the physical routines that were being developed. So this all with grandparents and grandchildren all working in, and we found it very satisfying. We're still working on the social impacts on this, and we'll be presenting them soon within the SPAC program. But basically what we did, we identified some of the tasks of obviously this is all in Portuguese, but some of the tasks related to the tradition of linen. We have the seeding, the threading, hitting, the looming, all of these different things. So we did an iconography with them so that it was easier to relate to the task. And then with the different tasks, we developed 3 different programs. One for kids. I am linen at school, alinho na escola in Portuguese. Where we simulated the hopscotch. It's you're familiar with this. It's a traditional game that we have in Portugal. We call it jogo da macaca. In English, I think it's hopscotch. It's like the marelle en français, different variations, but probably the same game. You draw on the ground and then you throw a stone and then you replicate whatever you have to jump over and do whatever task is on that stone that you get through. So this with children worked out very well because the children, they would throw the stone, choose a task, all of them would replicate it, they would understand what it was, the inspiration on it, and relate it to the linen tradition. In the children's playgrounds, it works out very well. It's on the ground painted, they can play, and they can, for this way, learn and teach each other how the tradition of linen used to be so important in their local community. Then we worked specifically a program for the physical routines to be adapted to be worked on in the gym. So everybody goes to the gym now. People used to, the inspiration came a bit because now everybody has to go to the gym, but there was a time when people would work physically, so they didn't really need to go to the gym. So that's what we were recovering, how the physical activity that the traditional way of life and rural communities had to go through. And now we adapted some of them to be produced in the gym, so that even by a routine goes practice or exercises at the gym, you could still be learning and connecting them with this cultural heritage of the working of linen. And we also made a program specifically designs physical activities for we call it I Am Linen Happy Life, which would be for our senior or older people, so that they can also relate and have specific physical, the more obviously at some ages, then you're more the micro physical activity with hands and more specific things that you can do. But all of this can be introduced, and these are all routines and parts of the physical, of the activity of linen, and the transformation of these activities into physical routines to promote physical activity, connecting it with the cultural heritage. You can see here one of the pictures are the ladies actually doing the linen work in the traditional way, and then in the background you see a whole bunch of kids doing the physical routines. This was to visually emphasize, so to make it more easy for the children to understand. In those days we also had groups of older people, and they all connected together, which worked out very well because we ended up having people doing physical activity, moving around, and connecting physical activity to a cultural, immaterial cultural heritage of the local community. And with this, we found that it was very easy for people to relate to linen, to understand the importance of linen. And it started the whole discussion on linen, on cultural activities, on what life used to be. So this way, the intergenerational exchanges, we thought at the end, were very interesting. It was kind of a spillover that we weren't expecting at first, but turned out to be probably one of the most interesting parts of the program. These are some images of some of the activities we did when we were testing and promoting them. You can see there are senior citizens, we had children, we had all of the different routines tested. And I think that now we're capable of producing programs that can be permanently laid out at a gym, permanently laid out for schools, and permanently laid out for seniors activities. And the idea is that this is linen, okay, but it can work with whatever tradition you have in your place of origin. I'm sure there should be some rural traditions, some I don't know, grape picking, different kinds of rural agricultural activities that could easily be adapted and translated to physical routines, and then that can be used and to help maintain the knowledge and the awareness of this cultural heritage. And I tried, I think I'm a bit shorter than my 10 minutes, but I'll be open for any questions that you might have. We had a very practical approach, so that's why our presentation was a bit practical as well. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, Vitor. And now we'll go to Dominik Huber from OutdoorActive, who is going to present on tracing the footsteps of the past, technology-enhanced integration of cultural heritage and outdoor adventures. Over to you, Dominik.
All right. Thank you very much for that. I just try to figure out how we can. All right. Now you can see my presentation. Thank you for having me today and giving me the opportunity to talk about the topic tracing the footsteps of the past, technology enhanced integration of cultural heritage and outdoor activities using the example of the OutdoorActive tourism platform. Do you see my screen switching? No.
Yes, we can see your screen.
But it's just the first screen.
Yeah, first the first screen, yes.
Hang on. It doesn't. I want to. Yeah, it's not working. Let's try it again. Now you can see the presentation again, right?
Yes.
Now it's switching.
Yes.
Great. Perfect. Just a few words about myself. I'm working for the OutdoorActive research department together with some colleagues in a very small team. My background is human geography. I did a PhD in tourism. And what we try in our research department is to bring the two worlds of tourism and technology together. I did a PhD in, I did also a postdoc at the New Zealand Tourism Research Institute, and since 2020, I'm working at OutdoorActive as a senior research manager. My main research interests are visitor management, sustainability, and active community development. And the last point is probably the most relevant for the talk today, because what we also try to do is to support our OutdoorActive community to be more active through the use of technology. And one of the projects we conducted throughout the last couple of years brought actually OutdoorActive together with TAFISA. That's how we know each other, and probably that's the reason why I'm here today and invited to talk. I'm assuming that not all of you know OutdoorActive, so it's just a quick presentation about the platform, what we're actually doing. We are connecting a reasonably large OutdoorActive community. At the moment, we have around 40 million community members with our platform partners, our business partners. The OutdoorActive community, they have a quite powerful set of tools at hand to better plan and prepare their outdoor activities to find routes on our platform, also to navigate when they are in the outdoors and know where to go and to know where they are using our app, and share their experiences when they with the OutdoorActive community. And on the other side, we provide technology for our business partners coming from the health, tourism, sports, and outdoor industry, mainly destination management organizations, but also other service providers, to use our technology, our software as a service technology, such as white label websites or apps, to create a digital twin, that's how we call it, to digitize their tourism, to digitize their regions and destinations. For example, hiking routes, cycling routes, but also points of interest, cultural points of interest. Our platform partners, they can digitize all this information. They can create content, manage their content, and distribute their content to the OutdoorActive community members. A few numbers about our content. We have around 200,000 cycling routes, 600,000 hiking routes on our platform. And since we are talking about culture and cultural heritage, we also have around 170,000 cultural points in our system. As you can see in the map below, most of the those cultural POIs are concentrated in Central Europe. The reason for that is that we are coming from Germany. Our headquarters is in a small town in Bavaria. However, we are growing rapidly, and you can find content pretty much everywhere in the world. Why is the topic here relevant and interesting for us? It's because we identified there is a high interest of our platform users in cultural sites and cultural attractions as well. We did a study on the interest of our users about the relevance of functions and content at outdoor platforms in general, and obviously most relevant are all those functions that relate to outdoor activities, finding routes, navigation in the field, or planning routes using digital maps as well. But then, of course, it's also very important to explore the region, to find destinations, to find attractions, to find the culture, to explore through our technology the region, and to learn more about the people and the culture. So that's very relevant for our users as well. I want to provide you 3 examples how we integrate actually cultural heritage, cultural sites, events, and so forth into our system. The most straightforward way is to integrate digital content into routes through images or text using storytelling approaches to experience cultural sites of a place. This is an example of a route in Munich called Art, Culture, and Munich Feeling, where it's actually a collaboration with a student group, and they created content about the culture, about the history of the place. They developed a route, integrated the content of the cultural sites, of the historic sites into the route, and therefore build an experience for the users, because you now can find this route on our platform as well. We also provide information about the physical activity. In this case, just below the map, you can see the distance. It's around 10 kilometers. The route takes around 3 hours, and this provides the user all the information they need when they want to discover by foot the history of the place. We even can enhance this approach by adding audio records to routes. Probably you know that from museums, when you can use an audio guide that helps you in terms of interpretation of the place through audio records. You can do the same thing on our platform in outdoor settings. This is an example of a town which presents historic and cultural information about the Romans who once lived there. And the tourism destination organization of Carlisle, they developed that content, they developed the audio records, and once you use our app when you are doing this route in the city of Carlisle, once you pass by a georeference point in the system, the system detects that you are actually at that point and automatically starts the record. In this way, it gives locals a voice, literally actually a voice, to present their place, to present their culture and their history. Just to give you an example how it sounds in this example.
Come, better stay close. Carlisle is a busy place, so you'll need a guide, and I'm happy to show you around. Well, to be honest, I'm glad to be away from Bird Oswald right now. Flavius has got a big meeting going on.
Yeah, just a quick example how it works on our platform. That's a very intriguing and very interesting way for our community to better explore and to discover a place when they are in the outdoors. In this case, it's an urban walk in Carlisle. A more complex approach, and that's the last example I want to give, is digital challenges. We have a feature which is called challenges, and platform partners, they can set up a challenge. In this case, it's a challenge in Switzerland, in Bern, for the Via Berner. It's a 300-kilometer hike, and the destination management organization, they generated 2 specified sites, including cultural sites. In this case, it's a cheese making factory, or like a cheese making hut, you may call it, in other huts as a cultural site. And our users can sign up for this challenge, and the challenge is to collect all those 20 sites on this 300-kilometer walk. It works similar to the audio guide. Once you pass by a cultural site or a natural site, it's not only about culture, it's also about nature in this case. You collect the geodata, and the system automatically identifies that you collected that site. And once you are collected all the 20 sites, you even can win a prize, which is coming from the destination management organization. You can do the similar things with collecting kilometers, setting up a challenge to walk a certain amount of kilometers in a specific time in a specific region. Then you arrive in a scoreboard, and that's actually quite an effective way to motivate people to be more active, to be more in the outdoors. Quick conclusion and an outlook why digital technologies are relevant for the topic today. I think I explained already that we can link physical activities with culture. Not only sites, but also people, events, offers can be found on our platform, can be found as digital content on our platform. We are also an important communication channel between our platform partners, including cultural sites managers, for example, and visitors. What you can see on the right corner, it's a guy standing on a pyramid in Egypt. Of course, that's not allowed, that's illegal. And this guy probably even knows that, I guess. But I would assume that most people who misbehave in a region that they don't know very well, it's not because they do it on purpose, but because they don't know it better and they don't have the relevant information. And we are a quite effective communication channel to tell people what are the do's, what are the don'ts to preserve cultural heritage, or also how to behave in nature to protect protected areas. Another important point is digital visitor management to regulate visitor flows, especially for those overcrowded places, those very famous places. It's very relevant to better control their visitor flows. We can use our data to predict visitor flows and also provide recommendations and provide tools for nudging solutions to guide people to places that are less crowded. I already explained the challenges approach. Another quite important aspect is to provide safe outdoor experiences when people are in the outdoors, are physically active in the outdoors, to tell them about the current conditions, about the weather conditions, about road closures or avalanche reports. Those things are quite important information that we can provide to our users when they are physically active in the outdoors. And just a quick outlook, what's important to us at the moment is that we ensure data streams between different sectors, because data, they are actually the veins, let's say, for an online platform, and you need to make sure that visitor streams work efficiently. Artificial intelligence, of course, is going to be, of course, an important aspect as well in the near future, probably, for example, to generate high quality content, and other aspects to digitalization, augmented reality, geocaching, location-based games. We don't have that yet on our platform, but that's quite an interesting point we have to look into as well. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to your questions. If you want to learn more about us, you see a QR code on the right side. Feel free to scan that or contact us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dominik. Just before you go, let me, there are a few questions here. One question is, what is the contribution of AI technologies, artificial intelligence technology, in developing sport as part of cultural heritage?
Well, as I just mentioned, artificial intelligence can be a very effective way to generate content, for example, but there may be other things as well that may be relevant to put together, for example, a tour that is based on machine learning. Such things will be quite interesting. Also, what I mentioned about visitor management and predicting visitor flows. Actually, we are already working with artificial intelligence on that to predict visitor flows in the future, to better guide people to places that are not that crowded, or to use artificial intelligence for a recommendation system which tells people based on machine learning technology where to go, where it's less crowded. And in this way, we can use very efficiently as well this technology for cultural sites and preservation of cultural heritage.
Thank you so much. Mataya, you are still there, right? A question to you is, how do you combine indigenous communities and sports? When combining indigenous communities and sports, how do you deal with the local history, and how far are you in terms of educating about the history?
Yeah. So when we're working with indigenous communities, it kind of depends on where we are, although we do work with non-indigenous organizations on informing them about indigenous histories and the histories here in Canada with regards to indigenous peoples. There is such a vast range of where people are at. So sometimes we're starting kind of at the very beginning of maybe what's happened in Canada, what indigenous peoples are facing. And then kind of on the other end of the spectrum, we have people that kind of know the histories a little bit more and are ready to start engaging with indigenous peoples in a really good way, and are ready to start just coming from an informed place, I guess. I think I missed the first part of that question.
No, it was just about how do you combine the indigenous community and sports, and then dealing with the local history, and how do you incorporate education into it?
Yeah. Often when we're working with indigenous communities, we do try and bring in knowledge keepers and encourage indigenous elders to come in when we're working in communities to kind of share those pieces. And we support some of the indigenous games that we have here. For example, we have the North American Indigenous Games, which is a sort of a national event that brings indigenous youth from across Canada to participate at a high level. And then we have like sort of the Arctic Winter Games often hosted here as well, where we're really including those aspects, and it's a great opportunity for sharing.
Yeah, I think the same as what Vitor had mentioned in terms of intergenerational dialogue, so that there's kind of that sharing. And one other question is, how do you deal with the cultural appropriation of indigenous sports in your community? How do you deal with the cultural acceptance and recognition of that in your communities?
In many, it's kind of a difficult question because, like I said, we have so many different communities across Canada that so there's a lot of diversity in how we would approach that. Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Yes, how do you, just a minute, how do you deal with cultural appropriations of indigenous sports in your countries? Like, how do you deal with the recognition of the indigenous sports in your countries? But I think it's a matter of, is there a lot of people acknowledging that and seeing the work that you are doing?
I think so, actually. Right, over the past few years in Canada, there has been a major sort of recognition, particularly through the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action and recommendations for working with Indigenous folks. Some of this has come about because of the a few years ago there was the discovery of many Indigenous children's graves at residential schools, and I think that kind of understanding of Indigenous history across Canada kind of swept the nation in a very impactful way, to where people were sort of becoming more engaged. And sport, there's actually, I believe there's 5 recommendations through the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action, which is a response to the residential schools. And so with those recommendations already in place, I think there was that sort of recognition from the greater Canadian community that these pieces are important, and those calls to action are real, tangible, actionable things that we can do. And it definitely put more focus on that and recognition in Canadian society.
Thank you so much. And then to you, Diar, how does it work in your environment in terms of who initiates the reaching out in terms of connecting culture, natural preservation, sports, and physical activity? With your experience, does it come mainly from sports sector, or it comes from the cultural organizations and heritage site location managers? How does it happen in Indonesia? Who is more interested in the connection?
Well, the first is Pancasila, like Pancasila. I explained it about the Pancasila. At the beginning, Pancasila is a traditional work that been developed in several provinces in Indonesia. But then now it's going to be to be a national sport, traditional sport, which our neighboring country are also they have the Pancasila. So at this time, Pancasila is one of our national sport.
Okay, oh nice. And another question is, do you see that being able to be transferred to other countries, other communities, other cultures, and be able to be incorporated?
Yes, it's as I mentioned, Pancasila is also developed in Brunei Darussalam, in Malaysia, and also Vietnam. It's also been competitive in our regional games, Southeast Asian games. It's already been one of the sport that will be competitive in our region.
Okay, thank you. Vitor, the same question to you, because the question was for all the speakers in terms of who is more interested in the connection between sports, physical activity, and culture and natural preservation. Does it come mainly from sports sector, or it comes from other areas?
I would say, well, it can come from any of the areas because they can easily link. In our case, it started off more as a sports thing, but then we added on the cultural aspects to it, and we worked out a very good marriage. But I think it's not going to have to be from one side or the other. I mean, you can have people interested in culture, historical heritage, and being interested in sports as a second degree, or the other way around. It really doesn't matter, because at the end, I think is if you're too specialized in sports or too specialized in culture, you probably won't be seeing the links, right? So that's why these groups of people working on together have to have very different backgrounds and very different whenever you make a project group or when you put people together to work on something, it'll always be a good idea to get lots of inputs of different areas. Obviously, in our case, because I'm from tourism area, tourism management. Then I focused on also in heritage and culture, always more in the prospect or in the concept of tourism development. But at the end of the day, physical activity, sports, and tourism, these are all things that can be put together and sold and made a product, which is tourism. Tourism is mainly an economic activity, but it depends on different areas like culture, and it can depend on sports, and it can depend on different things to add on to its product. So in our case, it kind of went that way. We were working with all kinds of people, but basically I would recommend every time you try to assemble a group of people to go on to something, try to get as diverse people as possible, not just people specialized on one specific area. Try to get different experts in different areas. That way you'll have different outputs. For us, it was very easy to see the connections between cultural heritage and physical activity worked out very well. I don't know if it was answering the question, but well.
Yes, no, definitely. And then the other follow-up is how do you find this sustainable? But I hear that you say because it was easy to connect, then you see the integration be sustained.
Yeah, in this case, in our specific idea, which I think it's very simple, it can actually, I think, well, it's kind of similar what Mataya was talking about. It's not they're not that different. We're going to our heritage, our culture, seeing what activities used to be made, and try to adapt them to new forms and to make awareness. And you can do that through many ways. And sports is one good way of doing it, because these are trendy things, right? Culture, heritage, and sports. So if you connect trendy things together, they generally work out in something that people will want to pay attention to and participate. So yeah.
Thank you. And Dominik, you have a hand up, but before you say that, I would also want you to touch base on in terms of what are your suggestions in terms of keeping cultural heritage, sport, physical activity sustainable?
This question was for me. Sorry.
Yes, I was saying when you can just touch on that after you said what, because your hand is up, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so
no,
we can also talk about the sustainability of the integration of the three elements. Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to say before, I want to support Vitor's point that I think tourism really can bring all those things together and integrate all those things: nature protection, culture, heritage preservation. And it's not only about the visitors, it's more and more that destination marketing organizations turn into destination management organizations all around the world. So it's not only about the visitors and the people who are coming and visiting the place, it's also about the local people, and to provide a sustainable place for everyone who's sharing the place. Is it tourists? Is it the local people? Is it the nature and the animals and so forth? And from our perspective, sustainability plays a very important role, because there's a real need especially for tourism destinations to look after their landscapes, to look after the people. Especially with the pandemic, we saw lots of overcrowded places because they were not allowed to travel. So they stayed at home or traveled closer within the countries, not across countries. And that created lots of overcrowding. And then the destination management organization, they understood we need to look after our place and manage it better. So we can make it as a great place to live for everyone.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, Mataya, you wanted to talk about the sustainability as well?
Yeah, I think like Victor was saying, it's not necessarily one area kind of going to another and approaching each other that's important. It's kind of that fact that we're doing it together and that those partnerships are sustainable and that buy-in is there. I think particularly with indigenous communities, if we are looking at sort of that holistic approach to sport, and if we are looking at that participant themselves that are sort of from the land and from these sites, and we're integrating those, we are going to end up looking at physical activity because we're looking at the physical self of that person. And many of those activities are ingrained in traditional practices. So that are engaging with the land, whether it's like maybe you're going to chop some wood, or maybe you're going to go dig some clams, or maybe you're going to do cedar pulling or canoeing here on the coast. If you start looking at sport holistically or people holistically, I think you can kind of, you're automatically going to have that kind of crossover. And I think that's kind of what makes it sustainable, especially when we start working together intersectorally, I guess. And yeah, I know for all of the indigenous work that we do, we are definitely ensuring that we have indigenous partners, whether they're organizations, knowledge keepers, or just people within the sport system itself.
Yeah, thank you. I think it also goes back to what Tian said about the visitors' experience, and like you said, the partnership between the tourism, the cultural heritage management, then sports, physical activity, and also being able to recognize the needs of every other player in there and be able to make them feel part of. I think that's what you also mentioned, to say we need to recognize everyone and make sure that we recognize the needs for them to be part of the integration of sports physically and all the natural resources and all that. Any other question? Okay.
Can I add? Give me.
Yes, I can hear you. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd also like to add on to Mataya's wisdom, where there may be situations where in creating those partnerships, but particularly with the multicultural, indigenous, equity deserving groups on the ground, that organizations that are in a position of power, sometimes it may be needed for the power and privilege organizations to do more listening and creating spaces and opportunities to empower the cultural organizations to really express themselves. And this is where the sustainability can come in, like fostering policies so that legacies are created, intergenerational partnerships continue to blossom and grow from strength to strength.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Kabir. In the absence of any other question and comments for the roundtable, we would now go to the next presentation by Spache, who is going to talk about the smart correction. Oh, okay, Tian wanted to say something. Sorry, before I get that, let me get Tian to say something. Tian, you have your hand up? Yes, thank you. Yes.
Yes, thank you. I just want to make one point, and as an anthropologist, actually, when I study Maasai's physical activity, the children actually walk more than 30,000 steps per day across a vast of land. But the important is under this fitness, high physical activity is their chance to learn different species across the land. So they are the guardians for us to know the land. So I think the questions I want to add in my opinions, how do you reach out to other domains to connect culture, nature preservation, and social issues and sports and physical activities? I think if you touch indigenous people, they're all together. They'll never be separated. But it's only when we integrated. We started from separated sectors, but now reverse the the thinking. We need to think depart from indigenous way of thinking. So from the linkage. So yeah, that's what I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that, Tian Sensei. Now to the spatial project presentation on sports and cultural heritage, a smart connection by José Fidalgo Martins from Tempo Livre in Portugal, who is also the project lead of Spatial. Spatial, like has already been said, are partners to the workshop today, as well as the 28th TAFISA World Congress Organizing Committee. To you, José.
I will try again. No.
Not yet.
Is working now?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jaime. Thank you, TAFISA, for the invitation and for organizing this workshop. Thank you for all participants. Special greetings for the SPAC partners. And is a great team. And we are doing a great journey in the last 2 years. So my presentation is about sport and cultural heritage. Is what we are doing in the SPAC project in the last 2 years, and we are we have more 2 months to finish the project. I'm just going to start with some definitions, something very quick that help us to build the project. These are 2 definitions from the European Commission and from the UNESCO. I have some examples of tangible cultural heritage. As you know, can be paintings, monuments. We have the pictures of the castle of Guimaraes in the top. Intangible cultural heritage can be many things: arts, festivals, dance. In the pictures we can see like an example, Brazilian dance. This is frevo. I don't know if someone knows this traditional dance. It's just an example. And we have, of course, natural heritage, like you can see a European forest is an example of natural heritage. About sport, in the SPAC project, when we are speaking about sport and physical activity, we are thinking in all kind of sports and in all kind of physical exercise and movements. Not thinking in the federated sport, but in other kinds of sports. Can be for the kids, can be a game of tag. For seniors, can be swimming, jogging, dancing. So we are thinking in physical activity for all ages and for all conditions. So in our project, as we saw in the last presentations, we believe there's a lot of advantage to link sport and cultural heritage. We know we have a big problem in a large scale. Every year dies 30 million people because this is associated with the physical inactivity, is a big problem in the world scale. We know human are designed to move, and in the last centuries, the human used to move. Now we are not doing that, and we know physical activity is a biological need. But now we have a big problem because the people are in activity, and we think we can promote the physical activity by the cultural heritage. Is a great opportunity for all. Considering Europe, in Europe, more than 7 out of 10 Europeans, they live near some form of cultural heritage. This happens in Europe, but I think in all world and several places, it's easy to be near from some cultural heritage. As we know as well, cultural heritage can motivate people, can give satisfaction. So we think is a smart way to reach the physical activity and the sport. And if we connect these two different things, maybe we can achieve our goals. And we can see as well relevance for the policymakers doing this connection. It's a form to the policymakers to find new strategies and to organize activities with a great potential as social and economical as well at local level, and in consequence is relevant for locals and for tourists. Even sometimes, even the local people, they don't know their traditions and their heritage, and can have a better sense of local belonging when they are involved in heritage activities. And of course, for the tourists, when they are visiting some place, they can have a great experience if they are doing something practical in some place. If they are visiting some heritage place, and if can do it as well, some sport or physical activity, they can have a greater experience. So this can be very relevant, this connection, for the policymakers and for the locals and tourists. Speaking about the SPAC project, as the name means, sport and physical activity in cultural heritage environments, we want to promote the participation in sport and physical activity for all, using the potential of the cultural heritage. So is the mix, this crossing of these two different things is the main concept of the project. We have 9 partners in Europe. Tempo Livre is from Portugal, is the coordinator of the project. Municipality of Guimaraes, from Portugal as well. Olympic Committee of Slovenia. Instituto para a Recerca Social, Autoguarda-Vole and Comune di Gargnano from Italy. Sport Friesland from Netherlands. TAFISA, you know TAFISA, of course. And Sport and Citizenship from France, and they have also office in Belgium. These are the 9 partners involved in the project. Our goals, what we want to achieve in this project, we want, of course, to explore linkages between sport and cultural heritage, to test pilot programs. We did that in last year. We implemented the pilot programs with using cultural heritage as leverage for the promotion of sport and physical activity, produce knowledge and learning about about the sport and the cultural heritage, and of course communicate and disseminate the knowledge. Is very important to share in Europe, in other parts of the world. And like this workshop is a great opportunity to share our project and our knowledge. This is, we started in 2021. This is a 30-month project. We start with analysis of the literature review and collecting good practice. In the next year, we start designing the pilot programs and to testing. And now the project will finish in June, the next month, and is the time to produce documents and the knowledge, the capacity building toolkit, then the book, special journal editions, is the time for produced documents. In this 30 months, one of the most important thing, it was the communication and disseminations plan. In workshops like this one, multiplier events, newsletters, and social media publications around all this time. Where the project, the 6 countries I told before, where the partners are coming from. At orange, you can see the countries where we are implemented the pilot programs in Portugal, Italy, Slovenia, in Netherlands, and in Belgium. We will be in Belgium next month in the final conference for the last transnational meetings and for the end of the project. So we are in the center, in the southern center of Europe, doing the SPAC project. I'm just giving now some flash of the pilot programs. Portugal, Vitor talked before about the pilot program in Portugal, the Happy Life, the linen in Happy Life, school and the gym. I will not repeat again. I have some pictures you can see the seniors, the kids, and the people in the gym. Portugal is about traditional intergenerational exchange and social cohesion is the main focus of the pilot program in Portugal. About Italy, you can see the beautiful Villa Bettoni in Garignano and the Lago di Garda and some mountains. I'm just giving some examples of each pilot program. In Italy, one of the activities, it was the trekking and culture. The people, they did a trekking activity, and at the end of the activity, they had a small concert in the top of the mountain. So a perfect match between the sport and culture. In the bottom, you can see a beach volley game in the Fontanella Park. Is another example of activity of the SPAC project in Italy. In the Netherlands, a very challenging activities with a very competitive spirit. I'm bringing 2 examples of activities in Netherlands. Abseiling from the church tower of Workum for people very adventurous, and carrying along Bonifacius. These are two examples in the Friesland, in Netherlands, of the pilot program. And I can give you another example from Slovenia, the 4th country implementing the pilot program, the SPAC project. Probably you remember Piran from the last TAFISA Congress last year, where it's a great place to play sports in a very beautiful city, is with a great cultural heritage. And in Slovenia, they are doing traditional games, modern games. They are connecting the 2 things, and it's a good example where even the locals and the tourists, they can join sport activities in a heritage place. To finish my presentation, I will show a small video about the SPAC project and the pilot program in Portugal. Thank you for attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before you go anywhere, there are questions here. The first one is, since the program is coming to an end, what are the immediate impact that you have measured so far?
I think one of the main impacts in this project is probably with the local people in each country. They are knowing things, and they are knowing, they are discover cultural heritage they didn't know before. This is a very important thing, because sometimes we think to share our heritage with tourists, with the people from other countries, and we can discover that even the locals in their countries, they don't know their own heritage. And from our experience, I think this is one of the bigger impacts we can see. And the other one is the satisfactions the people show doing sport and visiting and discovering the cultural heritage.
Thank you. And another one is, as the program is focused on Europe, will the final result be able to be adapted to different countries around the world?
Yes. In Europe, even in Europe, the countries and the activities are very different. And each activity can be adapted for other country, other place. And of course can be done in Europe or in Africa, America, Asia. Every country or every place can adapt. What we are testing is the concept of mixing the cultural heritage and the sport. So I think it's a universal concept, and they can test in other countries and other places.
Thank you so much, Jose, and thank you to all the speakers. I'll now just give each one of you 1 minute to just wrap up and just give us your last words. From Tian, what is your last words before we get to the end of the program?
Thank you very much. I think even Joe mentioned this is the last stage of this program. Actually, for me, I think it's just a very beginning, a start of something new, something will happen in the future. So I really appreciate by what you have done, and I'm looking forward to having more information about what is going to be in the future. And personally, I'm quite interested in Vitor and Dominik's presentation. And for Vitor, I was thinking, do you consider to add some traditional tools, like if they use some kind of specific wood from a specific species, maybe you can use that to integrate it in the physical activity, so that the kids can learn is not only about how to move the body, but also involve some local knowledge inside. So I think there are lots of possibilities for you to do for this program to be developed. Just a personal comments. And for Dominik, I was thinking, is it possible to invite like indigenous voice into your app? I mean, some Maasai youth actually, they are having broadcast to produce their own knowledge. So maybe in some locations, if it's a specific culture, it has a specific cultural significance, maybe the voice, the app can produce some stories reflecting by the local people, or I think the app has lots of possibilities to integrate local voice with the travelers and to to promote the communication. So actually I have many to continue to talk with all of the presenters, but yeah, let me stop here, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Maybe I'll give Dominik to give his last bit so that he can bring in what you said to him.
Of course, thank you very much. And of course, thank you very much for all the presenters. It was really interesting. I'm coming from the tourism side, but all the input came today from the indigenous voices and what's important to them connected and combined with physical activities was really interesting. Thank you very much for letting me be part of that. And coming back to Xiao's question, yeah, exactly. That's what we do. And my learning from today is that we should encourage more and more our platform partners to exactly do that, to give the local people actually a voice to present a place, not only to the guests, but also to their own people, because everything we do that is in our platform, that sustains on the platform, and everyone is invited to register on our platform. It's not involved with costs in the first step, so everyone can generate content on our platform. And because someone mentioned before how important collaboration is, and I think that's actually also a good starting point to collaborate with each other, to get in touch with each other, and to keep on working on this important topic. And I'm more than happy to continue the discussion with you, Diar, or with all the others after the workshop today, and try to make impact with the results of the workshop today.
Thank you so much. Mataya, your last word.
Yeah, also, thank you to the presenters. There were great presentations today, and thank you to TAFISA for hosting. I think in terms of what I'm looking forward to next, like I said, because there's such a diversity and so many communities to connect with, and so many things to celebrate in terms of culture and physical activity, and sort of implementing both at the same time. I'm just looking forward to the growth of that here in Canada, with the representation of the different cultures here and around the world too, not just here, everywhere.
Thank you so much, Kabir. Just you are here, so we can add
Thank
to what
you.
Mataya said. Yes.
So, thank you. So I work very closely with Mataya. I like to endorse what she says and plea to everyone on this virtual call and who's looking at this recording, in your programming, your physical activity and support for development programming, make space for storytelling from the elders. That's a way in which we, the youth and the future youth, understand our ancestors and the shoulders that we stand on, so that we can ensure their legacies and the culture of which made us who we are today, and who our future leaders are going to be, can be passed on.
Thank you so much. Diar, over to you, your last word.
Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you to the others presenter. That with this workshop, I learned a lot of different sport, different traditional sport, different heritage that come from different country. So by this workshop, I thought that this event is good to continue the next time, because there are more sport that we can learn from the other countries or the other presenter. Thank you, Leon.
Thank you so much, Vitor.
Hi, yeah, I'll pick up where Kabir was talking about the storytelling. When you're putting in this culture, basically we're all going around, we're telling our heritage, our culture, our history, and it's storytelling, and telling it to new publics, telling it to the younger generation. That's why we focused on it, particularly in our case, in the intergenerational exchanges, because this is a way of preserving it's not crystallizing, preserving old ways of things. Okay, things evolve and things, but knowing where we come from and storytelling. I think it's very much, in our specific case, you found a specific activity and you told a story about it. And then when you translate it to something more contemporary, where people can use and where the story can be told, okay? So it's, if you want, it's a dramatization of it through sports. but it works for all of the different projects that were put here. And you can basically do this with whatever is your heritage or your traditions or your culture, even if it's just a story that you want to tell or anything. Okay, so the storytelling part, I think that would be very important to focus on that, which stories you want to tell them. And sports, through sports, it's one way of preserving culture and heritage and telling your stories. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And Jose, back to you. Your last words.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, TAFISA. I just want to thank again TAFISA and to thank and to congratulate all the speakers for sharing this great experience. And I think this is the most important is we share what we are doing and to what is possible to do in other countries and in other locals because we have. I think we have a mission, a very big mission now is the promoting of the physical education and physical activity and sport is very important thing. And with the work and of all in all of the world, we can do it. And the heritage is a great tool to achieve these goals and to promote physical activity and sport. So thank you all. For your sharing and for your experience. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we would like to thank you on behalf of TAFISA, all the participants who have been here with us, and all the speakers for sharing your experiences, your sports activities that are going on, the cultural heritage and the integration, and also coming up with ideas on how to continue the integration and sustain the program that we are doing. What you have shared with us is also going to be able to help us in terms of expanding the information that we have under our Mission 2030 theme, which is themed cultural heritage and diversity. So you have you come out of this very knowledgeable, and we are also learning a lot from your knowledge as well as TAFISA. But to give you a few announcements and to encourage you, we will have the next workshop on our Mission 2030 coming in June, and it's going to be under the Peace, Development and Partnership Mission 2030 theme. And we will be sharing information with all of you and also sharing on our website and on our social media pages. We hope to see you again next time in June. And also we encourage you to participate in our 28th TAFISA Congress, which is going to be held in Düsseldorf in November. And we hope to see every one of you. Information is out there in terms of how to register, how much the Congress fee is, and then the registration will be open soon. So we hope that you can be able to be part of this experience and be able to share more, continue the knowledge and experience sharing at the TAFISA Congress. And also lastly, as soon as the workshop closes, you will have a feedback survey that is going to open up for you to give us feedback so that we can keep on improving our workshop, because this is a continuation. We normally have them every other 2 months, and we hope to continue to have this discussion so that we learn from one another. I see a lot of hands that are coming in. I'm not sure if it's in connection with this, but if you have any questions, continue sharing your comments on our social media page and on other platforms that we have, and we'll be able to give you responses. Thank you so much for being with us, and have a good evening, have a good day, and have a good morning. Thank you.
Thank you. See you then.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Ciao. Ciao.
Everybody.
Obrigado.
Ciao.
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 Thank you.